Mr. Moore said, yeah, I see it. What about it? I said, well, you're the reason why that this is happening. And it went so far over his head that I think if he would have swung at it, he'd have missed it by at least 3 foot. Let's listen to the rest of this, please.
We greet you, the esteemed brothers, and we welcome you from Washington. Washington, the American capital city. This is the Congress.
They was casing it.
Here is where the decisions are made and the procedures are taken.
Casing
Here's another clip where he actually goes inside the U.S. Capitol.
From the inside, the model. This is an entrance. It leads to the upper floor. The working day is about to end. Theirs, of course, not mine.
Earlier, the attorney representing the government of Saudi Arabia, the kingdom, insisted that Bayoumi knew nothing about the planned attack and met 2 of those hijackers just coincidentally. And joining us now to discuss, Brett Eagleson. He's the president of 9/11 Justice. His father, Bruce Eagleson, was killed in the September 11th terrorist attack. Brett, you were in court today. More than 200 exhibits were unsealed. What is your main takeaway?
The main takeaway is, wow, shocking. This is the first time that the 9/11 families have seen presented in a full story all the evidence that our legal team, former FBI agents, former national security officials have amassed over the past 23 years about the Saudi Arabian government's involvement in 9/11. Now, it's interesting you note that you mentioned the 9/11 Commission report on your lead-in, and all I heard today from the Kingdom lawyers were Commission report, Commission report, Commission report. Their story hasn't changed. They're still relying on the 04 Commission report. Everything that we've talked about today is post-Commission report. The video, which you just presented to your audience, was not even seen by the 9/11 Commission. So as far as we're concerned, the 9/11 Commission report is null and void. We need to rewrite the history of 9/11.
Yes.
In today's case, where hundreds of family members, for the first time ever, was a monumental development because we were able to finally see and understand what our lawyers have known for 23 years.
So regarding this al-Bayoumi casing video, what is your assessment of why this video was hidden from public view, and specifically from 9/11 families' view for 23 years?
It's incredible, Jake, and the fact is that we didn't even get this video from our own government, despite a Biden presidential executive order, despite bipartisan support in both bodies of Congress, despite pleadings with former President Trump, President Biden. Our government did not give us this video. This video came from the British government. It was the British authorities who obtained this video and gave it to our legal team, and it was shown today in court, and there were other parts of it that were shown. There were parts where Bayoumi was shown with the hijackers hosting them at his house. That was never known before. There were parts of it where there were other Saudi government officials, brand new to anyone, that in Bayoumi's apartment, there were senior Saudi government officials with him, higher ranking than Bayoumi himself, hosting the hijackers, slicing meat for the hijackers, passing food around. They were addressing each other in very respectable ways, meaning that they were using a form of Islam that shows a very high level of respect for these individuals. So today we learned a lot. I'm still digesting it, and it's just there's more coming too. And today was a very, very good day for justice, for transparency, and a huge day for the families.
Mind-blowing. Absolutely mind-blowing. And this is the information that I've been talking about now for years pertaining to who masterminded 9/11. While everybody around here wanted to discredit me, while everybody around here wanted to demonize me, while everybody around here wanted to make up all kinds of lies and innuendos about Juby being this way or that way, and now the truth is coming out full fold. What did Christ say? Go back to the Bible. What did Jesus say? Jesus said that your sins would find you out. The perpetrators that masterminded 9/11, that also cut up a New York journalist and put him in little bitty pieces and took him out in boxes because he had the same inclination that I have been talking about, that they was the ones that done it, they killed him. So Billy Wally and Reuben Baker and Ray White and Roger Hill and David Nelson and Mike Willis and Billy Turner and some of the Coopers, as well as Burton Sipes, as well as certain family members, as well as others that I don't have enough time to mention all your names. Nanny freaking boo-boo. This includes going to the courts in not only Dresden, Tennessee, that was a contributor of trying to ruin my life, of what went on in my life, of falsifying files in 2005 in Martin, Tennessee, but nanny boo-boo to the people that was engaged in this movement over in Kenton, Tennessee, beginning with the family of the Neals. Terry Neal, Faye Neal, Kay Neal, of the sons and daughters to Leroy Neal, that was the brother to Bobby Neal, needs to make an apology to me, especially whenever I got hung up here in Hopkinsville, Kentucky, in Trigg County, and basically wrote Mr. Neal 2 different letters, and he never replied back. But Jimmy Gardner up here in Cydonia not only helped me along with my money towards not necessarily financing me, but organizing my money, because I knew that the money that I'd given to David was probably going to be a fluke. So I gave some more money to somebody else. That way I'd at least have a little bit of commissary money while I was in jail, because I had no idea in how long I was going to be in jail. But it was Jimmy Gardner that used to run the Napa parts place in Sharon, Tennessee, that was good enough to take me to Hopkinsville, Kentucky, knowing that what that they was doing to me up there was wrong, was entirely wrong. I think his son now works over here in the John Deere place, and even to this day, whenever I meet him, he acts like he's got a monkey on his back, even though he was one of the ones with Bill Stevenson down here at the church down here. That was one of the first churches in this area, Beach Grove Church, that helped to baptize me. Bill Stevenson and Mary Stevenson. It was a whole group of people that initiated a movement down here at that building, that basically the building sat dormant for, I guess, another 10 years before somebody finally bought the building, and now they're converting it over to a vacation home or a secondary home or something. But, you know, this is so heartbreaking of seeing how many lives have been not just crippled, not just injured, but destroyed on account of this demonic movement that began after 9 tapes circulated to the White House in 1988.
What's your message to President Biden if he's watching right now? What would you tell him?
Stand with the families. Stand with the Americans. You know, you did right by issuing your...
He don't want to even stand 100% with Israel. He wants to side with Hamas. Buddy, you're barking up the wrong tree if you're looking for the Biden family to side with the 9/11 victims. They're all cowards. They're all two-faced. And they're all guilty of burning the candle at both ends, including some of the people right here that I know that I could probably pick up a rock if I was a good thrower and hit their houses.
Or executive order. Now that your executive order is being followed through, and now that the information is coming to light, we need your help, President Biden. And we also need your help, former President Trump. And we need your help, candidate Harris. We need these presidential candidates.
Leaders.
These two, Trump and Harris,
Leaders.
have to deal with this. This issue is not going away. We've been doing this for 23 years. We're more incensed than ever. We're more invigorated than ever. This is going to be a campaign issue. This is going to be a political issue. So we suggest that the two current candidates for office take this head on and stand with the families, put America first. I've heard that one, the former president...
For those that didn't have to live through 9/11 or was too young to remember it, I can remember it very, very well in how panicky that the country had become. All of a sudden there was a big movement of people all of a sudden going to church, and all of a sudden there was a big movement towards a bunch of people buying guns. But what I took notice of within 72 hours after it actually occurred, because a lot of focus was on New York, and the Pentagon and the other place where the airplane went down in the field. What I took notice of was a group of Arabs over there from A to Z in the Middle East. I ain't gonna say it was all of them, but they was bowing down to their Allah, thanking Allah, celebrating to Allah. We have struck the American land, and we have brought them to their knees. That's what they was doing in the process of all the suffering and the grief and the torment that people was having to go through. So you wonder, I've heard people ask me, why did you choose to go to New York City whenever you had the apocalypse model of the Four Horsemen made, and you put it in the back of your truck and you struck off to an unknown place here in America in your first crusade, your spiritual crusade? And the answer should be a given. Should be a given. Now that crusade, that first crusade, was in 1989. Basically 12 or 13 years before 9/11 happened. People need to put all the dots together in why Juby, the founder of the Windmill Ministries, has dedicated over half of his life in seeing biblical Bible prophecy being fulfilled. And if you have so much shame about yourself that you refuse to acknowledge of any of your wrongs, that's absolutely fine with me, because I'm one that's not going to hold my breath. I'm going to continue to move on with my life and with the ministry. And those that are so shameful of not admitting the truth pertaining to judging me wrongly, one day in front of the judgment, the great white throne judgment, we'll all be given that same accountability whenever there's going to be some very, very serious ask questions that you better come up with some very, very serious answers, because if you don't, it could very well cost you your very eternal soul that you thought that you had insured all these years by sitting on a pew and listening to one cold sermon after another. Proof is in the pudding. That's all I can say. Proof is in the pudding, and I feel so sorry that those poor people had to go through what they went through up there in New York, and I feel so sorry for what's going on right now presently with Ukraine and over in the Middle East and all the hullabaloo that's been going on. But if you can't convince people of what you're talking about is real and true, then you finally get tired of trying to beat the horse, because you realize I ain't going to get this thing to rise. He's dead. So eventually you quit beating on the horse, or you use a different tactic in beating the horse a different way. But it goes right back to the teachings of Jesus whenever he went up into the mountain and he realized that these people was basically unmovable, that he couldn't rally the people. And in a hearts of distress, probably one of the most depressing moments in Jesus' ministry, he looked down and said, "Jerusalem, Jerusalem, I've gathered you together And he did. Dozens of times. In trying to help the people. Not hurt them, but help them. And his reply was, "Yeah, and you would not listen. I've gathered you together as a hen would gather her chickens, and you would not listen." At that point in time, Jesus realized that these people are wicked. They're bamboozled. They've been indoctrinated. They're not going to change. So the best thing to do is go ahead and throw the towel in towards thinking that I'm going to be able to save them, and go ahead and get ready for my crucifixion. I really and truly believe that that's what Jesus was hoping for on the front end of his ministry, but there towards the back end of it, he realized, no, they're doomed. This whole group of people down here is doomed. And I just pray to God that the same doom does not hover over the planet Earth, especially over America to this day.
On make America great again and put America first. Well, stop cutting deals with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and stand with the families. And I'm waiting to hear how Vice President Harris comes out on this topic.
As you noted, your lawyer, the lawyer for the 9/11 families, argued in court today that the 9/11 Commission did not have enough information to do an adequate analysis of all the evidence. Do you think that the official commission report needs to be updated and revised?
I would call for a new commission report. I listened to 3 hours of testimony today from the 9/11 lawyers, which cited and referenced hundreds of documents which the 9/11 Commission never had the luxury of reviewing. Keep in mind, there was a 12-year secret FBI investigation called Operation Encore that began in 2006. Well, the 9/11 Commission report ended in 2004. So how can we have it over a decade's worth of FBI materials that the 9/11 Commission never had the luxury of, and the kingdom and the American public and the American government is still relying upon the findings of the 9/11 Commission report? The 9/11 Commission is null and void at this point.
Brad Eagle.
And in the meantime, they're still sniggering and laughing and thinking that they got away with it, just like they're sniggering and laughing, thinking that they got away with cutting up that journalist in the little bitty pieces. It absolutely makes me sick at my stomach in knowing what various previous politicians has done in putting America where America is today.
Listen, thank you so much. And wherever the politicians are, we here at The Lead, we here at CNN, we are with you and the other 9/11 families.
Amen.
May your father's memory be